You are live. Boom! With Arthur. Christian. I was going to say Cristian, but that's my. Excuse my French. That's it. Yeah, yeah. Arthur, how are you today?
Tired,
Yeah.
but well, I'm all right. The
Good.
dog's barking
Now,
outside, so
that's it. I feel like this here today, no, for me, no, it's the apex of the tip of the mountain of everything I think I had to realize. And it's deep and it's going to touch all of us, even me, you, in our evil ways or anti life ways. Anyway, so I was reflecting on what you were saying, and you always say we're deeply compromised. We're all deeply compromised. And I tried to make sense of it, and it's so true because we have so many ways that we go against life. Okay, so many. And I can name them all here tonight, but I'm not going to go there, okay? We're just going to, I think the people that listen to this here are aware enough to know what I'm talking about.
well to
So
list them all, you need a library, mate.
that's it. So all the stuff that we do against life, anti-life, and also the fact that we call it evil, I think is wrong. It's anti-life. People say and what you were saying also about love, you've never been loved, you never loved. It's because love is for life, like your website, Love for Life. So if you are for life, it's because you live your life. If you don't live your life, you end up on the evil side because it's the opposite of the word. So everything you do will probably be a lot in the dark. What you happen to end up doing because your mind controlled some way, somehow by some. Uh, Now there's super evil in this world, yeah, but we're all little evil minions at the bottom. Okay, all going about pretending to love and all that stuff. But in reality, we have never even loved our our own life because we don't bring the light and the soul and the power and the potential that we have inside. We don't bring it out. We sleep on it until we're dead all our life, but until we end up in the box in the ground. Even like some people will never realize their potential. And not only that, not only your potential, but the potential we can all have together to realize this, that it's we are all evil in many ways. If you smoke, you drink, you don't exercise, you're overweight, you're all this is a desecration of your divine presence here on earth. Like you're supposed to take care of that body and stuff. I'm not saying I've done it and I'm perfect and I've done all this here. I'm in the transition like many under trauma trying to heal. That's why I'm here sharing my thoughts like you. So I know I've done stuff like I'm overweight too, and I know it's not right. And I'm doing everything to get back in shape. So, there is stuff that we put under camouflage and we point to the evil people of this world, and then we think evil is just like murdering someone or some, but we're all doing evil deed. Like we're all deeply compromised into that anti-life. I prefer the word anti-life because that's really what it is. Don't tell me you're for life if you don't live your life. If you just go to work, pay bills, and die and stuff, and do repeat and go vote, and then like stuck in the matrix, like I don't know. I'm not judging anyone here tonight. I'm just trying to elaborate my realization with this. And I've realized that we are all deeply compromised, yeah, by the fact that we are all going against life so many ways. And we try to put cover on it and point to others that it's others that are doing bad stuff, or the people on top, or the deceivers and the liars and this. But when we look at ourselves, we will find a lot of lies and deception within us too, because we have lied to ourselves all our life. So when you stop lying to yourself, you start uncovering something new and something that is called living your life. You cannot tell me that life and lies go together. It's impossible. You cannot put life, and life goes with love. So if you have never lived, how could you have ever loved or know what love is? Like, we're all so fucked up in this shit stem. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And
The
when you
flow of
see it,
consciousness. I
and
know.
when you see it for what it
I
is,
know.
like I told you, I said, Arthur, I finally see it, man. And all the 10 years I've been here on YouTube feel for me like this is the apex, is the tip of the mountain, because after that, it's to try to clear all the evil stuff that I'm still stuck in. Not saying there's a lot, not what I'm saying, but we all have little stuff, like your rubber shoes, unless you are like the Jesus Christ type archetype, like walking the earth barefoot with a linen dress and a wood stick and preaching truth and facts and reality to everyone you freaking see on earth. Listen, what's this? Like, we all walk with rubber shoes. I saw big guru with sunglasses and rubber shoes and stuff. Like, what is that? That's anti-life, because you don't need sunglasses. You don't need rubber shoes. You go anti-life. It's evil, but we don't. No. Let's put a cover on all this, so we still feel good about ourselves and point the fingers to others that it's others that are evil, not us. But there's so many ways, and that's what I have realized. So, Arthur, my question to this is, now, how do we pave a way out of this? Because it takes so much. Okay, Arthur, people prefer to die than change their habit. Okay? And that's a fact. So now we're very far from a population of human that really wants to thrive with life and stuff, and be present with life. Like, how do we bring the super intelligent? Because we have been dumbified. Yes, I agree, but we're not dumb. We're not dumb. We just been dumbified by nonsense. That's what I have realized. So how do we bring back that super intelligence that belongs to all of us? And then we can do good things with it. Or are we always going to be stuck in that duality of day and night, male, female? If there's no male, there's no baby. If there's no female, there's no baby. There's no body on earth. So is it something we're going to be stuck with forever, like good and evil? Because it's so deep into us, that matrix. And this is what people do. The stuff we're talking about here, I've never seen anyone approach this that way. Okay, we're going really deep, because now I'm telling you to look at yourself. Look at yourself. That's what I've done. I looked at myself. I'm like, oh my God, there's like, so now every time I go on my bike, I take 15-20 minutes. I stop, take off my shoes, ground on the ground, no shoes. I'm trying to do it. Not saying I'm going to be Jesus Christ walking the earth, like I said, with a linen dress and barefoot all the time, but I'm trying to be more present with the earth, like less present. And also, if you want to be blessed, maybe you should be less evil. I made sense of that word. I was like, I don't want to be less. I don't want to be less. I don't want to be. And that's what they program into you, that you're an insignificant thing, and you got to be less, and you can be less, or something like that. So yes, you have to be less evil. All of us, be less anti-life, be less everything, less in your ego, less in everything, because we're so deeply compromised. And it's sick when you realize it.
All power to your passion, mate. All power to your inspiration, bro. And
so how do we pave a way
you
out
need to have inspiration and that passion for already to the super intelligence of life. The consciousness flows like a stream. It flows like a breeze. And we have just been meddled with to sort of opt out from allowing that to flow through us, and so that we be that and we're living that. So we've actually gone into anti-life. You call it anti-life, and we've practiced the fiction, which has kept us it's kept us isolated, frozen, dead, and some of us are waking up where we can feel the stream of life. We can feel it, through the trees and the fruits and the forests and the birds and all of nature. But we have this thing called the scripts in our head, all these intellectual things mirroring everything you've just described already in this podcast, yet alone what we have been covering through all this super intelligence series, since we started, a couple of months ago, yet alone all the videos going right back, I mean, I've been chipping away at the coalface for 20 years using scrutiny and contemplation, and just keep seeing as I can keep working it out. So, the pace I've been operating may be a snail pace or a bit faster than snail pace across the 20 years, because I really wanted to work out what happened, how's it work, and then what do we do about getting out of it. So that was just me. That's just my own way of coping with it. And it's been extremely stressful at times, with everything being thrown at us. But look, the remedy, we've covered this, and we'll go over it again because it's so important, the remedy, to get back into the flow, to allow the flow of life, to allow us to be that and live that and be inspired as that. It's letting go of all the scripts, letting go of all the alphabet thoughts in our head. Now, how do we do that without getting caught up in feeding it and giving it more energy, which is what we're doing? We get so confused that while we think that we are waking up, we're actually not waking up. We're just playing the game of waking up while we're still dead, because we're still, again, going back to the one pencil, the one pen, the tens of thousands of people that are involved in the factory planet Earth system that we are all complicit in supporting, because we want all the good bits of the dead world to use. And we lose sight of every mother and father and child and family and all that, and what their life conditions are, what's happening to them. When you realize too that, we're talking about the system being scarcity and mediocrity, because it cannot operate it only operates from that, because if everyone had wealth, that, like it's like that CESTQ trust that's been talked about. If everyone had access to the CESTQ trust created from the birth certificate when it was signed by the parents, and that we now use as the person that we're performing in commerce in the system, if we had access to that CESTQ trust and everyone got the dividends of the fictional dollars, you'd end up with multi-millions of dollars, but then who's going to work? If everyone's got it, what's there to do? You understand? So what happens? The system collapses. And because people are still addicts to the system, this is going to create enormous chaos and enormous devastation because of the dependency people have. So it's like a heroin addict going through cold turkey. We have to really be aware of, what's going to be at stake in letting go, to realize that if you want to be truly free again and be happy, these are natural things that happen from just working with the good heart and its virtues. So to keep it really simple again, I talk about the remedy of kingdom. This is what Fiona and I are doing. We've got ourselves almost 27 acres now as a responsibility. We don't own it. We're just custodians, caretakers of this land because it was gifted. We're going to create keyline water systems on this land because it has all the right aspects, all the things that we dreamt for over the years was created here on this property. So I'm going to get into this, the meat of how this is working for us, because that's how the remedy works for everybody. But we're all unique and original, all different. So we have different ways of going about it, but the same outcome can arise to how we get out of this mess, right? So in the dream that we were holding of that kingdom paradise, and that was inspired and contributed not just by the Ringing Cedars books, but it was also by other things we went through, You know what? I'm in the fiction. I'm 60, nearly 66, no, 67, nearly in a few weeks, or whatever that is. And then Fiona is almost 11 years younger than me. Now we've been dreaming all kinds of dreams as we have arrived to this where we are here and now. So on this land by Bark Farm, I'm focusing my creativity on restoring the land, regenerating the land. So I'm using the system to get out of the system by using machines like a slasher to go out and slash up to 20 times already in the almost 3 years that we've been here, and to build up the carbon profile. The carbon profile brings up the water table. It increases the quality of what's happening under the ground because the mycelium fungus is exploding underneath is what you need. Now from that, once you can rebuild all that, and that's contributed by horse poo, because we have 2 horses here. So when I'm using the slasher, it's partially working as a harrowing unit machine. It hits the manure and spreads it. Now, this is all critical because what's happening here, we are regenerating the land. So from on top of that land, with the water table now held up, we can start to create botanical gardens, green sweeping fields, orchards, food forests, organic gardens, native habitats. And all of this is going to be interconnected by billabongs that will hold multi-millions of liters of water. And we've created man-made streams so that the water is always moving throughout this land. So we're hearing the sound of running water. And from that, you've got lilies growing, you've got all the beautiful flowers, you've got abodes, you know, you've got sheds, natural sheds, and that position in different places, all have different purposes. And then with that, you've also got feathered friend environments. We've got swimming places where you can go swimming and jump off rocks and go into the water and have places where you can relax. But look, the whole goal of this is to keep the creativity of the dream busy. So I'm not thinking about the system stuff as such and being stuck in serving the system, so that the outcome of my life, I don't have any paradise. I just have the scarcity and mediocrity of living and surviving in the system, with regardless of whatever fantasies and attachments to entertainment of those fantasies to keep me so distracted, so I'm asleep for the rest of my life, and I die asleep. And I've not created any legacy, no heritage to pass on to others. So I'm busy in the creativity of a kingdom paradise stream that will produce hundreds and hundreds of tons of food, deeply minerally enriched food. And the excess is given away to the wider community for free. And those who want to come and see that, my God, these people don't have a government. They don't have police. They don't have all these things, because the consciousness that flowing through us is so busy in our creativity that we are so heightened. You comprehend what I'm saying? We are so heightened with moral correctness. Forget all the words now. We would never cross the line to want to harm or abuse anyone. And we'd always create the space and the respect for other people to have their space. And those families who want to come and part of this, they'll become part of it. And we will, it's like I said, you've got to create the light for others to come to participate in it. If there is no light, there's nothing there. All they're going to have still is the system with all its darkness. So we have the responsibility as creative man to create a living paradise, a living exempt with tactile skills that you can feel, touch, taste, see, hear, smell, right? And in the busyness with the dream, the vision of the dream, this is what we aspire to as we grow towards that. We're returning back to where our ancestors were before invasion began long ago. We're living amongst a village where everyone knows each other. And when everyone knows each other intimately, and the village is raising the children, or whether you're a nomadic tribe and the nomadic tribe is raising the children, everyone, and because everyone knows each other, you're not going to have all these intrusions of anti-life coming amongst us and having our children practicing living anti-life methods, which is what we've all done from when we appeared in the womb and growing up in the system, being sent to school and doing all the things we've done. So it is a deeply compromised habit that's kept us imprisoned of our own doing as a slave to the scripts in our head of the system that are not our dreams, that we have to get up, go to work, we've got to get up, we've got to pay bills, we've got to get up and do taxes, you've got to get up and drive around and do all the things we've got to do. And you find yourself, if you're really honest and sincere, you're not enriched with life because we've been too lost in the dead world, too busy in dead things amongst that. So for us, for me, I've created a living dream that it's got nothing to do with the system. It doesn't belong there. And even though I'm using the system to get out of the system, the vision of the bigger dream is to make sure that I don't carry on the attachment to the system, right? And so that others who are also working together with us, it's like a bridge we have built from the system across to kingdom, right? K-I-N-D, no G in it, right? It's K-I-N-D. We then burn that bridge. And the generations that come through, the children that come through, who have all been brought up by nature, and we've covered all this in the video as to why, how so important that is, they will take it further. Now, I don't know how far this man can take it as this life in this dream that we're doing here, but it's a living dream. Live in. We are living a dream. We're not thinking about our freedom. We're not talking about our consciousness in that way. We're no longer caught up in all the scripts. We're busy living. And what happens? We become more and more silent because the space of our waking life is filled with the creativity, which brings the joy and the freedom and the happiness and the elation, all the other things that come out of it, because we're nurturing life and we're part of life again. It's a natural occurrence that happens if we give ourselves the opportunity for that to happen with the discipline. Not, this is again, Ulysses on the Mars, having the discipline not to be entertained by the sirens on the island or the voices. Now, while we are talking, there are still sirens on the island in our head. Even all the time you talk to me before I started talking in this podcast, there are still sirens on the island in your head. In spite of your good heart and your good intentions, the only thing that gets rid of it is the creativity of your life, where you're nurturing life. And in doing so, you have forgotten the narcissism, the self-centeredness, the me, the I, the me, the mine, all that starts to fade away because they're all part of the scripts where the voices operate. So you can crack it without having to fight it, to break it, by learning to ignore it and learning how not to react with it as you notice it appearing. So you have this elation, this inspiration that you're going through at the moment, which is awesome. This is what we've been doing. We go through it too. Anyone who wakes up will go through that. But be smart enough to realize there's still scripts. We still have to be waking up and working in the land. And if you don't have land, you need to move to land where you can do it. Because if you don't do that, you don't have a living dream that's alive, that you're working for. You can't do it in the system, in suburbs, and in houses as such. Well, you can do it with small gardens and build it up until enough you're strong enough to say, okay, we're going to dismantle the system in this suburb if all the people were strong enough to do it. And they could recycle all the houses and everything and build a paradise on the land they're already standing on, which was once a paradise anyway, long ago, right? Before all this shit started. So this is just, in my approach in dealing with this, being conscious of the good heart and all its virtues as the dominant power is the consciousness, is the superintelligence of nature. It's the flow that lifts us up, that has us naturally be happy and joyful and fulfilled and all that. And being disciplined as Ulysses on the mast to notice when the sirens on the island are appearing. And we know not to play it out with somebody else, whatever that emotion is. And there's so many of them. If we can keep that discipline, we can work together, like in our example here on this land, we can co-create together. And if someone is struggling because the sirens on the island have gotten strong again, understandably, because they're going through cold turkey, You know, we spent 24/7, day after day, practicing worship and reverence of anti-life. So we need to have the forgiveness, the kindness. We've got to have the nurturing, the compassion, the honesty, the confrontation, which is from the heart, not the one of from some ego, but the real one where you, like the immune system, will reject anything that wants to come and harm the body. I mean, the immune system will come up with a double-barrel shotgun and go, gone. You're not coming in to take one of my legs or arms or eyes or part of my brain or anything else, right? Now, that's all attitudes and intention. So, Johnny, we can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about all these different things and scenarios we're all in. We can play entertainment, and we can, you know, like you do with music and I've been doing with music, and we can do all kinds of things. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. What changes is a living dream that you are creating that isn't anti-life, that isn't reliant on anti-life as the thing. So, yeah, I have to use a slasher machine. One day we'll buy a tractor. Yes, we bought ourselves an auger. They call it a Bullmax auger. It's a machine that we can, with an extra wheel, that we can put, do holes into the ground and then open it up with crowbars and everything else that we've got here, so that we can plant our hundreds of fruit trees in pots that are all struggling. But we're going to plant them. We have to do remedial work to nurture all the fruit trees that have been suffering since we moved them from East Barrel, from that was where the garden they were planted, plus other ones we've accrued along the way. See, so that keeps us busy, building gardens, creating food, learning how to work with nature, it's just learning through observation. Everything that keeps us not thinking about ourselves, so we're no longer in the picture. When you wake up, the portrait on the wall of your dream does not have you in it. You're not in there because you already are all that and more. And that's how you defeated narcissism.
That's
how
what? That's how you what?
What?
What did you say? That's how you plead narcissism?
The portrait, okay, on the wall, is a picture of the kingdom dream, the paradise dream. And when we have woken up, we are not in the picture. You can't see us in the picture. We're not there. Because we already are everything. Because there's no more narcissism. There's no more self-centeredness. There's no more obsession. There's no more what's in it for me. My money, my land, my this, my that, on and on it goes. There are scripts and the sirens and the island. When you wake up, you are not in the picture of the dream that you hold and live for, and I call it kingdom. You can call it Eden. You can call it a garden, whatever you want to call it. But it is a living dream that we are nurturing and caring for. And the flow of all that, which is flowing, and we're learning to reconnect and flow with it again. And that means our thinking changes, our feelings change, our senses are becoming more heightened. We stop listening to the scripts in the head, because if you listen to the scripts in your head, you are now in the portrait, in the foreground, or in the background, but you're there in the picture. Now that's idol worship. That's putting a guru up and worshiping a statue. You're dead. You're gone.
So is it the same as saying that, because I always say that what happened to me with the music, whatever, the TruMon show, you, everyone, it's beyond my wildest dream. Like I couldn't even have dreamt of this. Like it's far beyond my wildest dream.
Well,
it comes to the same.
But you comprehend this is the journey I don't like the word journey, but this is the process of what you're going through and letting go and letting go and letting go, which is what's happened to Fiona and I too. We've let go of, there's so many things we let go of, because unless we are living and being the living dream, unless we're doing it, there's nothing there. We can talk and talk and talk and talk about everything, but unless it's a living example and it's alive and it lives, and you can breathe it, and you can smell it, and you can hear it, you can see it, you can touch it, you can taste it, and it's alive. Look, going back to
Okay,
the
hold on.
Christian.
As a remedy, why don't we all start dancing on the big mushroom? Maybe we would like psychedelics mushroom or something.
See, that's a
Like
script.
start
That's a
giving
script.
mushroom to everybody, or
See,
find a
that is a
solution to
script.
snap them out.
See,
Snap
see,
them
that
out
is a
of there.
script. That is a script. The idea of where do you go in nature and see animals harvesting marijuana, drying it up,
Oh, birds do.
turning them. No, let me finish. Turning them into bongs,
Oh
making
no,
bongs, making joints, and sitting around smoking it.
no.
I can go into nature and I can see nature eating it and brushing past it and smelling it, but I don't see nature eating it as such. I mean, sorry, smoking it. It's the same with magic mushrooms. They are scripts put in our head by others. They're not an inspiration, an aspiration that comes through the senses, where the body is telling us, take a bit of that. This is not a voice in our head from a sirens on the island telling us to take the mushroom. This is nature as our body. Because remember, we're not inside the portrait. We're no longer self-centered. We are now the whole dream of life, which is what makes us godlike, truly godlike. We are undefined. And when we're like that, an inspiration may come, if that is what was needed for the body, for the vessel to continue on and it's letting go and it's opening up, it may say through senses, take a bit of that. But you can tell people to do that. You're forming scripts and you're actually destroying people in doing it.
Okay.
People are getting harmed more by it because usually what happens, Johnny, the mushrooms is no different to a bottle of Coca-Cola or bottle of lemonade or a Big Mac, because all that time they're in the system as slaves, all the while they're thinking they're expanding their consciousness. And they're not practicing the skill sets that gets them out of the system. Now, I'm generally speaking.
Okay, I get it.
I'm generally speaking here, but because I have met various brothers along the way who have to return to the land. I'm one of them because I took it when I was 15, 16, and 17.
That's very good what you're saying there. Yeah.
But what happened to me, whatever it was, it helped me because I was at the crossroads where I used to go down on the beach where I used to body surf and sit on the rocks because of all that hell of my childhood up to that point when I was, 16, 17. I had suicidal thoughts in my head. I had the sirens working away in my head. I had, the offer of loneliness and unhappiness and misery and anger and everything you could think of was all there. I did the best I could with what I knew to deal with that and get through that and not go into the dark places. I still carried it with me all the mess. But I can't prescribe what I did as something for someone else to do. Okay. I have been telling my daughters, you do not need to visit drugs for you to open up and be who you are because you're already exposed to all of that now by nature itself. If all the things we've been talking about, right? So we're not here to prescribe drugs because psychedelia is a drug to somebody who's following a script, like going to a doctor, getting a prescription, going to a chemist. It's not actually coming from their vessel, their body, their senses, generally speaking, because sometimes it works like that too. But we have to be sincere. We have to really listen. Is this something that our body is telling us that it needs? Or is it the ego, from the egregore? The egregore is the collective unconscious of all the sirens on the island all together coming at us through whatever forms of seduction that they can continue persuading us to be under its influence. You've just got to realize that. So magic mushrooms is not the answer. It's not the answer. Neither is marijuana or any of the other drugs or alcohol itself. The answer is life itself and allowing our body to let go of all the anti-life, so we're not frozen, we're not cold, and we're able to allow our body to allow the super intelligence to flow through us as us. And we feel as that, and we be that, and we do what we do. This is not talking Arthur here, talking as super intelligence. I'm just describing the experiences that I've had. But these experiences that I share is not going to lead anyone to having that, because you can't copy me. All I can do is show you all the things that I was not, and I can also do in doing it show all the things that you are not. But I can't show you who you really are.
So you just answered in the last 5-10 minutes all the questions I had. That's why I'm not talking, because I had all kinds of questions, but I was going to ask you, how do we bring this to a bigger level?
You just get on and do it.
You just said it. I can't force
Mate,
you.
I was a businessman. Remember this. I was a businessman. I was bringing in roughly $4,000 a week income as an average up until 2005. Now that's like $10,000 a week now, maybe, whatever it is. That's a lot of money, and I was, and I had 3 daughters, a 4th on the way. The shit happened with Macquarie Bank and all the other things with the tax department, all these things that happen, all these frauds, all these corruption things that happen. I just flicked a switch. I truly flicked a switch. And I just dropped the name. Now, I was exposed to things up, for years prior, but I just dropped the name. I stopped performing the person. I was no longer representing the person, the fiction Arthur Cristian, in the realms of commerce. I just stopped it.
What you're saying, say, as long as we represent ourselves, the fiction, the name and stuff, we're still on the evil side.
Exactly. And not only that, but as we go along, as we go along, more and more scripts are coming in for the person to perform anti-life.
The bills,
Hollywood, soap operas, television, radio, sport, fashion. The whole system is just continuing feeding anti-life.
So the name is essential for the script to keep.
No, I know what I'm saying. What I did. I'm not saying that others have to do that. I don't wish for other people to go down the road that I've gone, because I was driven by the passion to learn what the system is. I wanted to know what the system is. I wanted to know how it really works and who are these people, everything. And that's what drove me. And then I also wanted to know what the remedy was. All this was all happening at the same time. Now I unplugged. Now I had my wife with no business experience. She has no business experience. She's not a businesswoman. With 3 kids, she was pregnant with the 4th on the way, and she had to go to Centrelink and get parenting payments for the family to survive, because I stopped becoming an income earner because I wanted to focus on this. Now, how bizarre is that under these circumstances when you're so compromised in the system? But Fiona, and wherever she was at and where I was at, it happened that way. And the inspirations and everything that I was doing was unfolding as I went along. Now, because I was practicing not being in anti-life anymore, I had to, but I was learning to undo as I went along. And that's reflected, you see in all the videos and all the articles and insights and all the things that were through the Love for Life website that we were doing for all those years when we launched the website in December 2006. But the point is, it's not to put me in the portrait here to talk about Arthur here. I did what I had to do to get to where I am here and now, because the follow through of my intention, the follow through of the passion for truth, the follow through of the passion to seek remedy and be there and start doing something about it is where I've now arrived at here as this land, as this life. There's no luck to any of this. It was dreamt this way, and it was always done with full disclosure, always with constant full disclosure through the articles and the videos and the chats and the phone calls and the emails. Back in those days, it was Central Railway Station. And I got burnt out. I'm still recovering from all that, but that's what I did forgive I and the portrait me in the picture now. It's just what this man had to do. And Fiona did what she did. Literally, she probably was dragged along in some way because of my drive and passion and strength in that way and push. And I don't want to repeat everything what we went through, and I've touched on bits of it in this series of videos, but and it's in the Love for Life website. You can find HTML web pages that we put up when the website was damaged through the attacks. We cover a lot of what we went through in some of those pages. So the bottom line is this: I trusted the heart. I trusted what I was feeling. I'm going to explain a couple more things here because it shaped me to be what I am today and how my attitude works. When I was surfing as a young teenager, at one particular day, I got trapped in a rip. And I usually go into the rip. We all go into the rip to let the rip take us out. Cut across, and then we go across to where you want to catch your waves and then come back into the rip, and the rip takes you out. But this particular time, it was like a 6-foot swell coming in on a low tide, and it became like a washing machine where the rip was pulling across the sandbar, and the 6-foot swells, one after the other, were coming down. So I was going like this, and I couldn't get out. And this went on for God knows what, and I reached a point where I thought I was going to die, and I had to let go. And I wasn't that far from the beach itself, from where the sand was. I was like 30 meters, 40 meters out in a small bay. It's called Tamarama Beach, where this was happening. And I don't know what happened, but I suddenly found my body like 20, 30 meters away, still inside the Tamarama Bay. And I was awake and conscious. And I got, hang on, I was just in that over there. Now, I'm not joking. This happened. How the body was taken out of that and shifted to there, I know now. We're not alone. We really do have, people call it divine intervention, all these things. It's really ancestors. And whatever the bigger picture behind the soul life of the man, something happened there that shifted the man from that experience of dying into calm water, away from that smashing washing machine. Now, I could give you another half a dozen to a dozen of these kind of events that have happened. What I realized even years later doing Love for Life work, that I've always trusted. I always had this deep trust for life. I really did. And in spite of all the horrors, I just knew I was not alone. I always knew that there were others around me. I always knew. So I was not totally a prisoner in anti-life with no connection to who we really are, you know. And so that filtered through amongst so many other experiences along the way where I was taken to the abyss. I'm looking down the abyss, this bottomless pit, and I was able to walk across it and not fall down into it. And this has happened through business. This happened through this happened through the whole process of the Love for Life work in the early days. When we took these people on, these Freemasons on, when we started to realize who they were. And I went after them privately. Some of them, I went after them as pedophiles. Some of them committed suicide after I visited them. I'm not joking about this stuff. There are a lot of crazy stuff a lot of people would never do that I did. I went after people in the private who were judges. I did it out of the heart. I never did it from anger and rage, even though part of me wanted to kill them for what they did, what they allowed to happen. I mean, I worked for all those years, even though I'm effed up and I had all extenuating other things going on. That was all the sirens on the island still influencing this vessel. Horrible shit, you know. We can all become ugly in many ways, you know. But I was able to experience all this. I was given a taste of everything, of the real experience. This includes car crashes and other things that had happened. And here I am, still alive. So many things. I even had a gunshot. I could tell you a scene straight out of the Matrix that happened, where I watched the bullet.
I'm muted. Hold on.
So I'm not going to go into all this, but this is covered in our older videos. We talked about these things.
So the just a minute. So the main remedy, just to focus on this for the time we have left, is really returning to nature for all of us, like being in nature, playing with dirt, you know,
Yeah, because
garden stuff, and
if we let children being brought up like that again, and we're not putting scripts in their head,
yeah,
that they are the super intelligence of life. They already are that. It's already built in. It's already expanding. We don't have to doubt them. We don't have to be worried about communication and being successful, all these things, because these are all the things that are resonating behind why we do what we do to each other in the anti-life system.
and
If we give up, and that's what
would this
happened.
bring back
Yeah,
would
because
this bring back the super intelligence
yes,
that
because
we all
it's
should be
already here.
carrying?
It's not a destination that we arrive at. It's already here, present to us all the time. We have never left it. And in fact, the super intelligence is what's given us the life that we breathe and eat still, even though it's distorted and compromised and life has been removed out of it. And we're eating less and less of life and breathing less and less of life and smelling less and less because we've got so much fiction with plastic and steel and telecommunications and on it goes. But what I'm getting at, when we allow children to be brought up by nature, undefined, they are just expanding the superintelligence of their connection with life that they are. They are truly God. We are God. And it's in that power that some of our ancestors or one man misused it to begin what the system became. And what I'm getting at, everything is man-made. There's not a single experience that we're not at the effect of that's not man-made. Everything is man-made. We just got to be able to open up and look at it all and start seeing for what it is. Now, the reason why I was sharing some of these experiences with me is that underneath, I had the confidence. I didn't have the doubt. I didn't have the crippling emotions that would stop me wanting to pursue the things that I did that led to where I am today and doing what I'm doing now. That confidence was there. Yes, the sirens were still operating. Yes, I would create a dream that was beautiful. Yes, the sirens would come in and bring the grey and black into the white and muddle up the dream and cause the dream to become impure. And then from that, I would sabotage it. I would sabotage the very dream that I was living for. And I've done this with, I got to see just how destructive we are to the very essence of life that we are. We do it all, but we're not realizing how we're doing it. And this is why I've gone to such length in all the videos and articles that I've done through the years to explain how the system really works, what is really going on. And I've done it all for free. I didn't charge any money for this. I just put it out there.
There's many things I'm still trying to wrap my head around in this of the stuff you talk about, like the man-made stuff. And you say everything is man-made here on Earth. Now, I'm willing to really accept that. I laugh because there's so many oaks in that case. In that case, if everything is man-made, that signifies that there's a lot more oaks than we think. And I'm willing to deal with the fake moon landing and all that nonsense, and Paul Hurt and all that stuff, no problem. But the crop circles, like, that's man-made. I've never seen it. But now, where does this come from? Like, there's many phenomenon on the Earth. I'm not gonna name them all, but there's stuff that you would think it come from somewhere else, or maybe some kind of
follow through
from I don't know where across the plane,
the follow through of the occults and the esoterics,
or even this. It's a script, man-made script in my head. Like,
yeah, the crop circles is no different to the Easter Bunny. It's no different to Santa Claus. It's no different to the Tooth Fairy.
Oh my God. Okay, explain that.
But children really believe that the Easter Bunny is real. They really believe that Santa Claus is real. But when you wake up, because you remember, we were so got at by child fairy tales to get us assimilated to accept adult fairy tales. And we are still sitting on the laps of the Freemasons who act as the manipulators of us.
But
No different to the child sitting on the lap of Santa Claus, getting Santa Claus to provide a present because the child is so excited because of everything that the man's dressed up. It's still a man doing it all. And the whole scenery behind it's all man-made. All the props is all man-made. All the stories and everything associated with Santa Claus is all man-made. Same with crop circles.
And crop circles,
Exactly.
what put sometimes
What
I'm
does crop
suspicious of it là, is the
What does crop
CC.
circles do?
This,
What do crop circles do that will provide you with freedom, that will provide you with happiness and joy and give you life so you can eat it? Can you go and eat a crop circle? Because a crop circle is just a wheat field or a grass field. It's not, the crop circle is just an imaginary shape put over living things, but it isn't itself anything. You can't go and visit a phantom that we've manufactured as an apparition. And we can use laser technologies. Now, you've got to remember this. The technologies that we are being exposed to today, where we thought they were invented, often go back 100 years, even more. And in fact, go back when they were reused previously. I mean, we've already seen plenty of evidence now of video podcasts and facsimiles and all that amongst what they call Tartaria now in cities, where they found all these images and photos and all this sort of stuff. This was all going on. It's closed circuit television, all this stuff. But because people are still asleep, they don't think that that influence could be still happening now. And we think magically we've just invented television back in the 1940s, whatever, 1930s. But it's the same. Look, some of the things that woke me up about all this was pretty powerful. The Battle of Waterloo with Napoleon and the Duke of Wellington, whatever his name was. And the true story, when you read all this stuff, Napoleon defeated the British Empire. He won that battle. But there was a conscripted army funded by William of Orange that came late in the day to tackle the tired French army. Now, news of this went back to the City of London. Now, if you look where Waterloo is and where the City of London is, and you got to cross the British Channel to get to it, there is no way that even a smoke signals, like when you're doing smoke signal or carrier pigeons, could get news back within hours to tell the people of England that the British have been defeated, causing the Bank of England to collapse. That caused the whole economy to collapse because the whole world was going to change now because Napoleon was going to become their emperor. You've got to remember this. Now, what was the technology used to communicate from Waterloo to London in less than a few hours? I'm saying we already had telephone. We already had technology, even back then in the 1700s, that was used in amongst all the lies we've been fed. So what we're looking at today, when you're talking about crop circles, you only know what you know, and it's what you don't know that's manipulating and used against you to mess with your head. But when you wake up and start to see everything in the real way, you start to see the crop circles as man-made. Because the only one experiencing crop circles is man. It's not aliens coming down. They've got a coffee table sitting next to a crop circle, and people can come along and sit down and talk to the aliens, and they can discuss, like going to an art gallery. Oh, look at this wonderful crop circle shape we've just made. You wouldn't even be able to notice it properly unless you could get up high enough to look at it, look down at it. You're not going to sit down and talk to extraterrestrial beings or anything like that. You're not going to see spaceships that come down and sit, and like a tree's here all the time or a cow's here all the time. You're not going to have a spaceship be constantly there all the time. Because we know all the spaceships are man-made, all the aliens are man-made, all the scripts and stories are all man-made, and they do nothing for the dream of life. They don't have a natural purpose. There's no animal that needs them to exist by eating them or having them do whatever they do so they can live. They don't need them. There's nothing of life that needs a crop circle. Nothing. You can't go and visit the family of crop circles. Go and talk to the father of crop circles and the mother of crop circles and the children of crop circles. You can't sit under a tree and have a cup of tea and a coffee with the crop circle. The only one that can do that is a man. Santa Claus is the same thing. Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, all the same shit. It's just people are so sucked into adult fairy tales so they can be manipulated because there's a bigger picture going on behind all of it,
So
which
it's
goes
just
back to
another.
this.
It's just another deception
Of course it is, and it's a distraction.
and
What the hell does
a
it do?
distraction.
What has any crop circle done to free man from slavery? What has
Freedom,
any
I
crop
think,
circle done that's healed man from sickness and disease?
from mental slavery too.
Nothing. And yet it is a pipeline of pure fantasy where people can escape reality because reality is too hard for them, because underneath the trauma and the
Okay.
grind of life, doesn't matter what it is, there's
Yeah.
always something going on. So that happens. So why do you think, when I was growing up, we had Monday to Friday, we had a 40-hour week or whatever it was. And then a couple of times a year, the factories would put up these parties and we would go to these places and they would give presents to all the kids. And then our parents would have a 6 weeks holiday and we'd go off and do what we're doing. But the grind was always there. The commercial obligations are always there. The mortgages, the leases, the tax, which gradually came in because there was a period we didn't have any taxes, mate, except a TV tax and a tiny 0.5%, 1% sales tax. There were no other taxes up until the 1950s in Australia. No joke, none.
Yeah.
No workers' compensation, no superannuation. These are all no different to the fairy godmother. It's no different to the crop circles and Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and everything else. They're just a lot more sinister adult dreams. Seduced like the sirens on the island in your bloody head to manipulate you. They're thinking this is all real and true. You see, I can create an orchard here and produce and garden and produce hundreds of tons of food. Now, that's not a fantasy. And in fact, people can come and then take food for free. And it gives them life because it's life that's adding to life. But you can't go to crop circles and do that. And when you're under the delusions of marijuana and mushrooms and psychedelia, it compounds it even more because you remember every time we breathe out, whatever dreams we're holding is penetrated into that breath. So all the fantasies are circulating amongst us as well, and they can collectively accumulate through intention by the occultists to create phenomena. These unnatural man-made phenomena.
That's deep.
And you don't even see these apparitions. This is what all religions are riddled with. People running around believing that God is a he, that God exists, but they don't realize the scale of the apparitions that they've been seduced into. Brought on by everyone who's holding the images of God and Jesus and the Virgin Mary and Allah and Muhammad and the Prophet and all the other. It goes on and on. But you can't go and visit Jesus. You can't go and visit Allah. You can't go and visit Muhammad and sit down and have a cup of tea under a tree as a constant and play with Allah's children or God's children that way, those fictions. It goes on. And even war and chaos and corona and all these things is no different to, guess what? The crop circles. It's exactly the same. We get so caught up because we're so susceptible to adult fairy tales that we will entertain horror amongst each other and do the most terrible things to each other because we really believe in these apparitions and the influences of that voices of the sirens in the island seducing us into
all anti-life. Yeah.
And then from that hatred, because you happen to be French and I happen to be Aussie, not that, or you happen to be a Jew and I happen to be a Christian. But you can't go and visit Jew. You can't go and visit Christian. You can only visit a man acting as Jew or acting as Christian. And the scripts and whatever seduction has taken them over and whatever they've done to change the environment they're living in, where the props of Christianity or the props of Judaism or Mohammedanism is around you, and you've got them on your walls, and you've got all these false idols and all these things happening. It's no different to taxation and banking. It's the same shit. You can't go and talk to money. You can't go and talk to commerce. You can't go talking to the stock market. You can't go talking to Macquarie Bank. You can't talk to the Supreme Court or the High Court. You can't talk to the Roman Catholic Church. You can only talk to a man acting as these things, under scripts, under the influences of the apparitions that make them barrister, lawyer, judge, expert, scientist.
Is the idea of talking to God too ludicrous, or it's
Yes.
like
Why would you talk to yourself? Because that's what you're doing. You are that. You are that. We are that. But we are so forgotten. It's in the forgotten state of this anti-life seduction. Bear with me.
Oh,
it's in this anti-life seduction through the generation as we gradually fell under the influences of these apparitions, where we're accepting more and more adult fairy tales to become the norms of our everyday lives, right? That's how we've ended up here to where we are today. And all the emotions, you can't go and visit anger or fear. You can't go and visit greed or selfishness. You can't go and visit complacency, apathy, denial, misery, etc. You can only go and visit a man acting as these feelings, these distortions. But you can go and visit a flower that inspires you with its beauty and feel through the senses the love and the joy and the magnificence that puts us in awe of life itself that we are. But you can't do that with a destructive emotion, because they're all fiction. It's all fiction. So it's just that we have been so used to being sitting on the laps of others as kids, as an analogy, where they're opening up the book of the fairy tales and they're reading us the stories as we're looking at the pictures, and we're practicing creating the apparitions as we breathe out these images of Alice in Wonderland and Cinderella and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and on it goes, Star Trek and Superman. I mean, I'll use the story of Superman. I mean, no one can go and visit Superman. We can only visit a child caught up in the scripts of Superman, who's wearing the costumes of Superman, running around with a house that's been changed into becoming the fantasy props of Metropolis. But all it is just household furniture turned into a fantasy dream world. It's no different to crop circles, Yannick. Exactly the same. I mean, how can a kid acting as Superman in a script suddenly freezes because it's come across kryptonite? What's that and the difference between that and Corona?
Yeah, it's all the same nonsense. Anyway,
they don't want the occultists don't want the truth of all this to come out. They do whatever they can. They do everything they can to discredit a man like this man or Fiona. They'll do everything to silence whatever avenues we have to access to help people wake up. Because the thing is, it's very easy to just use scrutiny and prove, as I've done to many, many people. Bring forward the first party. Bring forward this God before us. Let's sit down and talk to God. Because all we have so far is just a man. There's no point having an apparition that can come and expend its energy in seconds or minutes and gone and never see it again until the energy of the occult can build it up that to bring another deception of apparitions to us again, like the crop circles appearing in that, and let that be played out mainstream. Do you think all this is happening because somehow it serves the agenda of the truth? Or is it there to manipulate people into more and more fairy tales? And that was the difficulty of us. We get so caught up looking at the fairy tales of all the images of Superman, and we're a little kid sitting on the lap of our parents, and they're reading the story, and we're in the imagining and the fantasies as we're watching the pictures, as the pages are turning one after the other, so we can go through the whole story, his story, her story, and have that be so seductive that the sirens on the island has you now running around dressed up in a Superman costume as a kid, running around the house and the yard, being Superman, playing out everything in the fantasy of all the scripts. Now, that assimilation, it is truly assimilation, like the Borg Collective as a drone. So you become used to accepting adult fairy tales that are no different to child fairy tales. So you can accept taxation, rule of law, banking, commerce, etc., and all the horror shows that come through, and accept the stories of man on the moon, and there's a military base behind Mars, and on it goes. There's zillions of these scripts coming at us. And what is happening is we're still in the system, under the control of the voices in our head, because we're not outside of the system, because it doesn't happen in nature. You don't go through all this in nature. Nature doesn't have this on offer. It only, because you have to be seduced by complicity, by acquiescence and compliance, through entertainment and seduction, etc., into performing the rituals of banking, money, ownership, land title deeds, intellectual property. Look, today here in Australia, the federal government is doing this, the state governments are doing this, the local council is doing this, all the local councils, all the private corporations doing it. I've seen it in the NRL for rugby league and sport. I've seen it in other sports. There's this announcement. We give whatever they say to the traditional elders of the land, of the man on the land, as the custodians of this land, and we don't, you know, and they have all these scripts, right? And they're admitting they don't own anything. That the whole legal system and the whole political system doesn't own land, doesn't own anything. Nothing. They've admitted it by doing this, which leads to the trickery and the deception of the intellectual property that people get sucked into, because we need order to the chaos they manufacture. And you have to be manipulated and molded to accept adult fairy tales so you can play the role as a slave, a commercial vessel in a system of scarcity and mediocrity, of first and last and rich and poor, of fat and thin and strong and weak, and play it all out in multiple different ways. No different to the child in the Superman costume, playing the fantasy of Superman at home. No different to the child frozen by the script of kryptonite. No different to the scripts of the agent going to come knocking on your door. We want to come and see all your papers to check out your taxation. We want, to come after you. The fear porn behind all this is all manufactured because you were assimilated into fantasy from so young. And that's all it is. Okay. That's all it ever been.
My last question to you to wrap this up would be, there's always going to be day and night. Now, are we always going to be stuck in that good and evil, or it's man-made concept to even think about good over evil or evil itself, or because it goes against
day and night doesn't
really
exist. Johnny, day and night does not exist.
Yeah,
that's made up scripts as well.
Okay.
So when we connect back to that super intelligence and we allow that flow, which we get back busy in life, like getting back into communities and doing it. These last 3-4 videos go very well in explaining everything as to what we're doing. And we're leaving our doors open for those who can handle that full responsibility. Remember, we have to love what we say that we love, where the system shows that we don't love what we say that we love, because that full responsibility of that love has been compromised. And what's been compromised, or what's been allowed in, is all the fantasies of all the emotions and all this what's in it for me. right? So that the portrait, when someone comes along to want to join something like us, they bring themselves in the foreground of the portrait and they'll be in the background. In fact, the whole portrait is just them. There is no real kingdom dream there because they're still too caught up with narcissism. And if they, and at this point, we just got to sort of move them on. We haven't got time to deal with this. When we are stronger, we could probably help some of these people if we're up for that. So what I'm trying to get at is that the good heart and all its virtues, they're words that we use into our scripts. But when you connect with them and you're being it, living it, that becomes your moral correction, your correctness, your moral perception of life. It's not explained by an elder who tells you what morality is. It's a natural, instinctive thing where we seek to do no harm to another and covet another. We don't go coveting another man's partner or another woman's partner. We don't go lying and manipulating and doing all these things that we do in the system. We come to just be in the portrait with us not even being there, which means we're busy all day creatively doing what we're doing, nurturing life and creating life and allowing that freedom to prosper. So you have a whole community and they are not in the portrait because they are life itself. They're there already. We don't need to claim who we already are. We don't need to validate who we already are. Why we still do that means we still doubt who we really are. We still have uncertainty about who we are. We still have distrust about life itself, though who we are, and on it goes. And it's there where the confusion operates that will allow us to accept fantasies, child fairy tales as adult fairy tales, and play them out with each other. And the whole emotional racket of all the dramas being played out is fabricated because it's nothing real there. It's man-made. Just because so many others are doing it. You know, I told you the story of
I'm not gonna talk about the pyramids.
All man-made.
We'll leave the pyramids out.
All man-made.
You just answered me. So
your consciousness, if with the beauty of our consciousness and our co-creation together, we change the weather. We change everything. We don't need free energy because a pyramid was once land that had been destroyed, and the rocks, everything of that had a natural purpose. And then it was turned into this fiction. We call it a pyramid or an obelisk or statue or whatever you want to call it. You can't go and eat it.
No.
It doesn't have children. There's nothing of life that needs it. Why is it that if you leave all these things alone and let nature come back to what it's going to do, it's the same you're seeing now in South America. You've got the remains of all these old civilizations with pyramids and all that covered by forests. Nature's swallowing it all up again. And give it time, all the buildings will be transformed back to nature.
Yeah.
It's showing you it has no purpose, no natural purpose. So look, this series of videos is to describe Ulysses on the Mars and why we need to have that discipline so we can look at all the destructive emotions of all the fantasies that we've become, so sickened with. And are we strong enough to be able to work with the good heart again so we ignore the influences, the suggestions of those feelings, because we should never make decisions from them about anything. We should never be under those influences and making decisions from them.
That's the problem. We make decisions from them.
We should be only making decisions from the inspirations of the good heart, because that means we are in that portrait, but we're not in the foreground or the background. Yeah. We're thinking bigger picture, and we're doing everything for the bigger picture of the dream of life that we are. And we don't seek validation. We don't need to seek to be given self-importance or be raised and go, wow, put them on some statue, some false idol. I don't want to be set up.
Or on the TruMon show.
Oh, exactly.
Same
all we're doing is giving.
We shouldn't even be here.
Well, eventually we will stop all this because we will be very busy creating life, which is more powerful. And those who aspire to that will come and they get inspired. And they may decide, well, I don't want to play any more child adult fairy tales anymore. I don't want to play the game government. I don't want to play the game the rule of law. I don't want to play the game of harm, of doing harm. I don't want to play the game of chaos and have the game then have to play to require order because we can't take full responsibility for our actions. And that we need other people, mostly strangers, coming into our lives to execute order to the chaos that was manufactured and implemented by the Freemasons in the first instance, where we are all complicit because we're all involved as players in the game.
Oh, yeah.
So we reach that point where it's no longer, we're not heading on a journey to anything. It's just letting go of all this and be present.
Living life.
Yeah, and that means doing. Because if we love life, we're doing it. We're busy with our hands, with our feet, co-creating, restoring paradise where it was. In our case, we're restoring paradise where there wasn't any here. It was here a long time ago. But we took down all the big trees and it disturbed the whole tree system, you know. Took down the big cedars and all the big pines, exposed the eucalypts, all the gum trees. And we started messing with them. And so now we have thousands of saplings all coming through everywhere. That never used to happen.
Yeah.
Because all the traditional people have memories of walking through the forests everywhere where there was no clutter. They had incredible beauty and magnificence.
Yeah.
We didn't have bushfires like this. We don't have any. Look, it's just the scale of what we've done. And that's people, look, bit by bit, we're waking up to what we did, what our ancestors did that's led us to the effects we're having today. Our ancestors that started the lie of the crop circles is affecting us today. But we don't see the connection yet. We don't see that connection. We don't realize how all that technology, how from the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, is still going on. What you don't know will be used against you. So what we're doing is waking up so we are in control of everything. We don't need administrators in our life. We don't need representatives and agents in our lives because we're fully responsible. We love what we say that we love. The buck stops with each of us if we're fully responsible. So they're pushed out because we don't want those fairy tales anymore in our lives. Which means that we're going to create abundance and magnificence, and it's all free and shared. And the plentifulness of it. And then we're changing the atmosphere because our happy, bright thoughts is changing everything. We're not going to be creating cyclones and tornadoes and tsunamis because we are not dwelling on all that emotional shit, which has got nowhere to go, to dissolve itself, to resolve itself. So it comes back at us as these destructive fevers that we talked about in the other videos. So, you know, you'll know that you've woken up because you're busy out on the land that you're caring for, because that's what are you with that land, man? What are you? Yeah. Are we useless food eaters? Are we scum? Or are we man? Because man is land. Land and man is all one and the same. You can't separate it. It's only the fantasies that's made us think separated, that created fantasy borders and created fantasy names and called it America and Canada and Australia. It's only fantasies that created lots and plots and acreages and all these things. They're all fairy tales, propped up by all those who bloody got caught up in and believe in it. So you've got to walk away.
Yeah, walk away. If you want, do something. Anyway, that was great, Arthur. I don't know if you want to tell us anything else. I'm going to have to go soon.
I was just going to say, I do to wind up for me. When we work from the good heart, we already have paradise because we are that. We're living being that. That's the information we're working with. Right? So we're not going to see poverty, homelessness. We're not going to see despair and misery. We're not going to see anger and rage. We're not going to see crimes of any sort. We're not going to see terrible things that in the system that people do to each other. We're not going to sit there and covet land or covet another man's woman or partner or anything. No, it's all gone. Because the good heart already is what we call nature and life, and it doesn't teach us this other shit. It's only man
And
True fact.
the moment you take full responsibility, you're not busy thinking of anything else but your responsibility.
Well, it means when you do that, it means you love life. You love your life,
Exactly.
and you love the life of others around you.
Boom.
And then, and the point is, this is what, if these people, these authorities and all that want to come into your life and say, what are you doing here? Are you working on this land? Do you own this land? They can never prove that they own it. We can only expose them as hypocrites and liars if you have the guts to stand up
Yeah.
to them
Yeah.
and have the smarts to stay calm and love them with the full responsibility, because they don't have anything.
Yeah, because
They don't have
nobody can
anything.
own anything. Like it's all on these.
Nothing. You can't even own your last breath. Try and own
Yeah.
it. You die if you didn't let it
That's
go.
it. You can't own anything. Like just the
Second, you
idea
can't you can't
consume.
own your last drink or meal. If you don't let it go, you're going to die too. You don't own anything.
Wow.
So there's an
Anyway,
that's
great
eternal
talk.
life. The good heart is eternal life. Are you willing to take that full responsibility to live like that, where we become selfless, where we are selfless, and we do everything for the greater good, which means that we create everything for those to come, and then they grow into it, and they create everything for those to come, and generation after generation, they pass on the inheritance and the legacy of that life, and that's what we see. We call nature, because the
So
true godliness of man is behind all of it.
so are we in a dark age?
Yeah, because we've forgotten who we are.
Okay. So we're in a fallen state.
Yeah, because we're lost in
Okay.
fantasy,
I was thinking about that too
confused.
before. I'm like, are we at the fallen state or
Well, just stop and listen to what's in your head. Are these dreams that you created that are unique to you? Or are they borrowed dreams that you're playing out? Can you actually find a dream that you've actually created that's unique to you?
probably
You know,
not?
that very few people will be able to, because they're just completely spoon fed. But that doesn't mean they can't break it. But you've got to go back to nature and co-create with nature to connect with the aspirations of the good heart and all its virtues that lifts us up. So we behave differently. And in that, we create those natural dreams of the good heart. And it's there where the
I think
soul is.
honestly, if you ask me what would be my dream today, would be to have a fruit forest, have fruit trees
Well, get on
everywhere,
with it.
and
Start
be on
collecting
the
pots.
land, and
Start collecting pots. Start
yeah,
putting plants in the pots, making bigger pot. Start focusing on attracting the land. Start doing whatever you've got to do to focus on making that
that's
land
what.
happen. And then move all the pots in and start planting.
Yeah,
And start, but you got to take time. Like we had to take time here to work out. You got to work out, where the breezes are, what happens during what we call the seasons. Looking where all the shadows go, where the
yeah,
shadows come and go, what the wildlife is doing, where the wet areas, where the dry
yeah,
areas, where you got to get to know the land, and then
exactly,
you can begin to do things with the land
exactly.
to enhance it and improve it. And look, we're going to make mistakes, mate, but I'd rather be making mistakes, being happy in true freedom, doing it from the heart, and keep learning, than be stuck in a system where I'm going to make mistakes, but I never grow to have a soul.
So we shouldn't feel bad about ourselves if we like. I do realize lately how deep evil or anti-life we are at times. Should we feel bad with ourselves,
Well,
like, or
the self, our self is a fiction,
okay, okay,
and feeling bad about yourself is a role playing of a fantasy.
okay.
When you've woken up,
So
there is none of that's happening.
okay, so it shouldn't even be in my thoughts. But it's
When you wake up, you're no longer in the foreground, the background, the portrait of the dream of your life that you're
I,
holding. You're busy being it and living it and doing it.
I'm trying to have compassion and kindness for myself in the process of realizing all this. Like
Well,
I have
you're
same
going
like
to
I
be
would
undoing.
have for someone else,
Johnny,
compassion
you'll
and
be just
kindness.
learning how to undo the attachments to all the fantasies that you're still plagued with.
Yeah.
You have to slow everything down and
Freaking
listen to what you're thinking, because it will tell you what you're feeling. And if you're feeling emotions, because remember, emotions are fantasy, illusion, and delusion. anger, and all the others. They're not natural. And when we refer to self to become happier, you're going to be trapped on the island with the sirens.
Okay.
Who you really are is already here if we allow it to be, by allowing the senses to be stimulated by the super intelligence of life, by being exposed to life. But, like you get out and you ride your bike, but, you may want to go barefoot and walk through the forest. I mean, I don't do that, but people do it. But you can go and hug a tree, and you can go and nurture plants and grow them and produce food. And then some of that food, you turn around to the friend, look, this is for you.
Yeah.
And you may have joy in your eyes as you give it to someone else. And, that's not thinking about self or feeling bad about self. You're busy in the creativity of doing things, which is what's adding to life. You're building the abundance of life. You're holding a domain of a dream where that can blossom. You don't want the other shit to come in to undermine that dream, so you don't even have land to be responsible for anymore, because you're still being entertained by all the fictions that are coming in our heads about the self and the poor me. And how do I get out of this mess? Yeah, it's all surrender, and be honest and sincere. Oh God, I'm stuck in that shit again. Go and have some time out. Go and take the dog for a walk. Go and have a quick swim. Go and hug a tree. Get back to, but don't go taking out that shit and play it out with plants. I've seen a guy who was working in the gardens at East Barrow. I won't mention names or anything now. Tendering to seedlings and all that, and I saw all that whole patch gradually die because of where that man was at, his energy. I remember that, and it really blew me away. Wow, I've got to make sure I'm not in that state. Intentionally, our gardens here have been held back for various reasons, but one of the most important ones is what I'm just talking about here, to make sure that purity and sincerity is there, where this emotional stuff is not playing out with each other, because that is then transferred to disfigure life itself. Because it's the shit that happens between us that causes us to deforest the forest, that causes us to do immense damage to life, that causes us to create enormous problems. When we are in the good heart, the decisions we make from that will never play out that shit. So all that energy goes into the seedlings and the plants that you're working with and you're growing your food. You don't want this other shit to come into it and then attract situations where drama is played out amongst people, and people are going to play sabotage and bring in dark energies, and they're going to play the game as if they are conscious and that they're happy in the light when they're not.
Yeah.
Which is what's happening in the system. And then they have to play third-party victim mentalities, which you need other people to come in to get involved to make whole what's been corrupted, which never can be done, because in the system, the authorities and the whole system is to maintain the status quo of the power structures of everyone being weak and underneath others, because that's how scarcity mediocrity plays out. You've got to remember, we are all on land here and now. All of us are on land right now, generally speaking. What quality of life do you have that you say that you love? Because you'll be amazed that so much of what you say you love, you don't love. You hate it. Why would you go to the shops, and I'm a hypocrite now, and buy food that's compromised, created by people that don't hold you in your dreams?
Yeah, right there.
And on it goes. You don't want to start going to a garden. This is one of the reasons why I've held back, because we had issues here. There were other things going on here, and I've left that space open to focus on other things for now, because I'm not in fear or distrust about this. All that is before me, all that before us, that'll happen anyway. I'm still alive. I'm still doing what I need to do. I'm not in fear of not having good food and then playing out all the rackets that come with it. You know how many people get into paranoia over the quality of food? They don't have it.
Oh, yeah.
They cause more damage.
There's many extremists out there.
It's someone like Fiona and I'm not joking when I'm saying this, we'll gain more health from the shit food we buy from the shops. than going to a garden with people who are in misery and anger and all that, and eating that food, and allowing that to spread on the land that we're part of. Now, this is big picture stuff, but I'm telling you, this is the real truth. We have a responsibility to love what we say that we love, which means we don't let any of the other stuff play out at all, ever. No matter what it is, because people will find excuses. Because they are in the portrait, in the foreground and the background, they're victims with victim mentalities. They don't want to take the full responsibility to stop all the chaos. People will perpetuate victim states because the stories and the scripts will chop and change and chop and change. Their lives chop and change. But the scripts that lead to all this friction that continues, they don't notice that they're still in the friction of the chaos, in spite of whatever they think they've done to change. I've seen a lot of people go through what they call health, and I don't see them improving at all.
Yeah.
Because we create this problem. We create it. We're creating everything. So it's a real discipline, and that's why Fiona and I have taken time out to just be sure, without getting into the doubt and all that, that when we start growing and growing, doing all the things we're doing here on this land, it's being nurtured by others as well. We take full responsibility, and they really love what they say that they love.
Yeah.
And it's not compromised.
Well, that's good, Arthur, for... I think I'm frozen on the screen. Yeah, I'm frozen.
I think
that's a good,
we call it
good timing. Yeah, we just call it at the right time. Anyway,
so we agree. We just call this series complete for now, and maybe later on, the inspiration come. If we have to do some more again, we'll do it again. But
but for now, I think we have covered pretty much everything we should have talked about. I mean, it's so deep. Even me, I'll take time to rewatch it and really retake it in, and it's something everyone should watch maybe 2-3 times just to take in everything you give us. So, no, I'm very grateful anyway for your presence here every time. So, we're at. See ya. Boom. It's all love for life.
Bye, everyone.
Love. It's all love for life. Yeah. Boom.